All right, so today I'm going to teach you what I do to do a water change because I have 3 tanks. I end up with a lot of buckets, but I have my prime ready to go. This is what I'll do to make water. So the first thing I do is I do anywhere from 20 to 30% water changes monthly. That seems to work really well. And at that time I clean any hang on back filters, which probably won't use. Most people use canisters, and canisters I clean every 6 months, and I clean those canisters in water I take out of my tanks, not in chlorinated water. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 65 gallon first. I'll walk you through that, and I'm going to do, it's about 15 gallons, so I'll do anywhere between 3 and 4 of these buckets of water. So I'm going to make, I guess I'll make 3, I'm going to do 4 buckets of water. I'm going to make 4 buckets of water because I always like to have an extra bucket of water ready to go. And then I'm going to remove probably 15 gallons of water from the tank, dirty water, and we'll go from there. So I'll just keep doing videos along the way. So pretty simple. What I do is I take the prime, I got a little measuring cup on here, I've already got it down, I fill it up all the way, and I put about, you can't overdo that, and I'm overdoing it. I put about half of a cup full in each bucket. And then the second thing, pretty simple, what I do is I make sure that I get the temperature warm. You know, my fish are running about 83 degrees, so I go all hot water and a little bit of cold. And a little bit warm is fine. You don't want to put a bunch of cold water in your tank. Okay, so because my lids are old, the plastic is actually separated on the lids, but it actually makes it easier for me when cleaning. This becomes your best friend. It's very easy to buy. Rinse it out, make sure there's no soap on it. We don't ever use any soap, and it gets the hard water off. And it's something that I use to get the algae off the inside of the tank, which I'll show you well. So I just run water on this, no soap, just scrub this. It gets all the hard water off. I flip it over, and I let these dry while I'm turning the tank. All right, so we got our setup here with our towels, our 3 buckets where we're gonna empty dirty water in. I've got my vacuum in there and my pump to refill. I'll show you that later. In this tank, what I have to do in order to vacuum out the gravel, I've got to take out all of these rocks every single time I turn the tank over. I don't ever take out the big one, but I take the plants out and everything. And I'll show you how to do this in each tank. So that's the next step. I've got the lid off, and we're going to use, once I take the rocks out, we'll use the green sponge to get the, there's little specks of algae on the back wall. I don't know if you can see right there. Yeah. So the goal is to get all those specks off of there. All right. So we got all the rocks out, all the plants out, except for the big rock. Try to give them a place to hide while I vacuum out the rocks. And there's not much back there. I can get the vacuum in there a little bit. So just give some distance for the fish to hide in and background while I vacuum. Plus it's super heavy and I don't want to risk breaking the tank. So negatives to having a tank designed like this is every time I do a water change, I got to take all that out. What I really want you to notice is how small the rock is that I got. Okay, so this rock is as fine as you can get without getting sand, and I have tried pure sand before, and that's why I don't have a hang on back filter, because the sand literally destroys filters that hang on the back. The canisters do okay, but you still end up with a ton of sand in there, and it gets all in the water. It doesn't keep it clear. So this type of fish and all my tanks actually have this same exact level of grade sand, which you have to filter, clean it out before you actually put in here. But that's for a different video. So you'll see as I vacuum it how it does and how it's easy to clean. And they sift it with their mouths, which is nice. So do not get oversized pebble that you see in like these pet stores. That is not what you want. You want the smallest granulated type rock pebble, almost like sand, that you can get. So we're going to use this green sponge. Pretty simple. And the goal is where I get this on the back of the tank, because the light typically shines on there. I'm just getting rid of all of the green algae on the back of the tank, which really doesn't hurt fish. It just looks really bad. So I do that before I do the water change and vacuum the water, because that way these particles are in the water. I'm hoping I get most of it, but it is really hard to get off. The Plecostomus doesn't seem to want to do that work. It's probably too hard for him or something, or too much. Maybe he can't keep up with it. But I'm just going to go through the whole tank and make sure I get all of it. Okay, so we got 3 buckets ready because we're going to do 15 gallons of this. Got my vacuum ready to go. You just pump this bad boy. As long as you have some gravity working, you can vacuum out the gravel. And the goal is to get as much nasty water out, all the dirt out as possible in that process. And I'll show you what that looks like at the end. Once the water's in here, that's the water I use to clean my sponges and filters with. And so if it were a month where I was cleaning my canister filters, which are in here, then I would be just taking the dirty water in the buckets out to the garage and just opening the canister and washing out the filters, squeezing them out in the dirty water. And so they don't get perfectly clean, but that's okay because you need good bacteria on those sponges. So here we go, we're gonna vacuum out the gravel. So just trying to get as much of the nasty water. And you can see there's still sand remnants in this tank from when it used to be a sandy bottom tank. And just going around and cleaning out the dirty water. Okay. All right. So this is what it looks like after a 20% water change is done. And I went back through with the green sponge again, just some spots I had missed. And you know, it's a little bit cloudy. This gives you a great view of the fish that you have in my overcrowded African cichlid tank. I like overcrowding it because it keeps people from picking on someone. So it means I got to take better care of it and keep it clean though. So some people say they do water changes every week. Some people say every 2 weeks. I find that a month works just fine for me, but I literally can't go over a month. So we got the pond pump in the bucket and got, I don't know, 3/4 inch tube, whatever it is that came out. I had to buy that separately. And then we make sure that we don't run the water into the rocks and the sand because it makes another mess. So I've already placed the river rock in not where it was before. Everything looks different every time I do it, which is kind of fun. But you just plug this in and then get the water flowing, and then we just dump all 3 buckets back in and we're good to go. Okay, so lights back on, rocks in, power's back on, and looking good. Okay, so this is my other tank, tank 2. One important thing to do is don't put your tank up close to the wall because you need to have good access. Pretend like you have to paint behind there. So in case you ever want to add a hang-on back filter or anything like this, you have good space on it. And so we're gonna turn this tank over now. So what I'll do is, even though I have a canister filter down here, that 407, Fluval 407, I'm not going to touch that. I only touch that every 6 months, but every 30 days the hang on back filters have to be, I take the sponges out, dump them out, and I clean them in the quote dirty tank water that comes out of it. All right, so we've got the dirty water. It's not too dirty, right? It's a clean tank, so it's to quote the dirty water. And because we have these hang on back filters, they have to be done every 30 days. The canister filter we won't do on this tank today, the 407. I got the ultraviolet light on there, and I had to tape it because it kept pulling the output. It kept pulling this thing up too high, and it's making a bunch of splashing. So I had to tape it so the weight wasn't on there. So I definitely recommend the ultraviolet light on though, because it keeps the tank so clean. But that I do every 6 months, so I keep a date on when I do that, and we'll do that on the big tank. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually literally going to take each one of these filter pieces and put it right into the you can see it's not bad, right? But I can't wash this in chlorinated water. I got to put it in actual water that came out of this fish tank and just kind of, scrub it. It's not bad at all. I mean, this is why I really like overfiltration. So like on all my tanks, I have probably 2 times the recommended filtering going on. And even though it might take a little longer to get my tank in the beginning stages to settle in with the right level of bacteria for things, it's still worth it when it comes time to this. I'll explain what this is later too. This is a product I buy. I'll show it to you because I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but I'll show it to you in the next video. And it is amazing for keeping the water clear. In fact, I think clear is in the name of it. I'm old and I can't remember the name. And all I do is use a sponge system. I do not use the replacement cartridges that you buy with your filter. And it's not bad at all. Just go in here, I'll clean it, and I'll put it right back in. I'm gonna take those canisters off the back, just literally dump the water out, take the tubing off, clean that in sink water, and then hang them right back on. All right, so now that water's back in and nothing's turned on yet, because we have, on your hang on back filters, you obviously have to have water in them. So I put all of the cartridge in there on both of them. And now I just need to fill it with water, and then I'll plug it back in. Do not plug it back in before putting water in. Obviously that won't work, right? So I just take some of this fish tank water once I got it nice and full and fill her up. Okay, so 3 of 3 tanks. So I will have to, because I have a hang on back filter on this tank, it'll be a 30-day change of the cartridges on the inside. So, and then I have 2 canister filters on this. I've got the Fluval 307 and then the FX4. And it's been 6 months. I did this last in March. This is September. I keep that in my notes in my calendar. I always do my water changes on the 2nd Saturday of the month. And I note when was the last time I changed out each cartridge. So you're gonna get to see today how I clean a canister filter. And so this tank, I can't take out live plants. I can't take out live plants that are attached to rocks. So the only thing that gets vacuumed is everything that's around the live plants. All in here, we'll do a 20% water change on a 135 gallon, which will be almost a little over 25 gallons. I'll just do 25 gallon water change. So the water's already made out in the garage in the 5 buckets there. And I'm gonna empty out 5 buckets here with the vacuum. And then you'll see me next cleaning the canister filter. All right, so green sponge used once the water's down. The Discus are not happy with me right now, but we'll fill it back up soon. We haven't done the canister yet, but I wanted to point out something. I don't use the replacement cartridges that come with the filter. Change this every 30 days. That just gets rid of the good bacteria that's on here. So all I do is take this and cleans up pretty good in the bucket of water that I just took out of the tank. Just dump it and clean it, put it all back in here. And there's sponges underneath there. You can see the sponge there. I'll fill this up with water in a minute. Sponge underneath there. And that way I'm not buying replacement anything ever for this filter. Okay, so we take the canister, open it up, and filter cartridge by filter cartridge, we start breaking it down and clean a little bit here, clean a little there, soak it in there, and we just go through and wash it. None of it gets washed with chlorinated water in the sink. We dump whatever's left of water out of the bottom, and today we found a coolie loach swimming around in there that we grabbed before it went down the drain and put it back in the tank. So the issue with the FX4 is the large intake valve when it sucks in the dirty water is very wide. So I tried, micro shrimp in there. They all ended up in here dead. So that's why I like the 307 filter from Fluval, because it doesn't have such a wide opening for things to get in. But we've gone through each level, squeezed out everything in all 3 buckets. It's like dirty, a little bit cleaner, soaked it. And now we're just putting it back together. With the FX4, you have to fill it up with some water. But with your canister filter, the 307, you actually don't put any water. You actually will put it back together completely dry. And it has a pump on the top, and you pump out all the air, and it creates a suction flow, and it'll autofill from the water in the tank when you take it apart. So that's the difference between the FX4 and the 307, 407, 207 Fluval filters. All right. So refilled the water with the pump, 25 gallons. Had to recognize that 5 gallons went into the FX4, 4 gallons to fill that thing back up. So I had to make another 5 gallons of water because I didn't want to put chlorinated water in the sponge. Thanks to Scott, he caught that. We almost made that mistake. The Discus are still in hiding over the trauma. The only thing that's left now is to Windex the glass. Everything's up and running. I cleaned the glass here in a sink with the green sponge, so it's nice and clean now. All the algae's off. Cleaned all the walls of the glass with the green sponge. We emptied that canister, so that means in, let's see, I'll have to check my calendar, but I think it's next month or it's in 3 months. I've changed that canister, so it's on a rotation. So with all 3 tanks, I've got 5 canisters. In only 1 month am I not cleaning out a canister over that 6-month frame. And then every 30 days I'm doing the hang on back filters. I am noticing that my air is not coming back like it once was. So I don't know if it needs to build up pressure or what, but I'm gonna need to look into that once all the tribe is not freaking out. They're in panic mode right now. So we'll feed them and get them back to normal. All right, I think that is it. All right, feeding time. The monos love it. A little frontosa, some Lake Tanganyikas in there. And the monos are quick to the food. My favorite fish. He is so cool. All right, so here's the tank all clean with not everybody hiding so much. All right, so these are the chemicals I use. You're gonna want the big one of this because every time you do a water change, you're gonna need this. Chem is the brand. And I got that measuring cup off a different bottle. But every time you need to get rid of the chlorine out of your tap water to make tank water and you do a water change, you're gonna need this, as well as the first time you start your tank. Okay, and then the other one I get by Chem is Stability. And this is what you're going to use to start your tank. And so it just, there has to be bacteria, good bacteria in your tank water, and it takes a long time to get there if you just put fish in. And so this gets it there really quick. And this bottle's almost full. So you don't need a very big one of this because you'll literally use it like once probably to get your tank going. So smallest bottle of this you can get to start your tank, and then start with some small fish. Don't try to overdo it. Don't put a ton of fish in at once. And then we'll talk food next time. Oops, I also forgot this by Chem. It's called Reef Buffer. And one of the hardest things to do in your fish tank is to keep your pH balanced. And so I actually just follow these instructions. 1 teaspoon every week. I do 1 teaspoon for every 40 gallons. So you'd put like 1 scoop of this in every week. And it works amazing to keep your pH right about where it's supposed to be so it doesn't spike. And it's basically baking soda with some other stuff in it. So this stuff is awesome. I would definitely recommend it.